Welcome everybody. Today, I want to help you to see and learn this new productivity hack that maybe you've been overlooking. All right. Now, it's one that not only people overlook, but sometimes people even look at it as a weakness. And that's when it's the right time to pause and rest. And then I want to show you some specific ways to help you to recover and perform better. Cool? Like this is going to be for you if you are constantly working or maybe even overworking, or maybe you're stressed or overwhelmed, maybe even burnt out. I don't know. Maybe you're something like a parent who has a lot on their plate, or an entrepreneur, or an employee that's part of a large organization that things just keep getting handed off to you. Like this is something that's hopefully going to flip the way you think about productivity, but also maybe even like a bit about your own self-worth, because the world is out there and they just keep shouting like, we got to do more. And I want to offer you maybe something that's a little bit quieter, something maybe stronger. And that's the idea that rest isn't a reward in any way. It's actually a strategy that you put into place. So let me set the stage by maybe asking a few questions. Like, have you ever felt guilty because you wanted to slow down a little bit? Like, or do you just push through things, like, even though you might just be running on fumes, because somewhere along the way you learned that that's what driven people do. I gotta hustle. Like, I've been there too many times, and I fall back into that same trap again and again. I mean, as a parent, as someone who's trying to lead people, build something, like, you know, you want to give without dropping the ball. Like, for a long time, I believed that exhaustion that you felt at the end of the day, like, that was like a badge of honor. And that rest was something that we would eventually earn or get to. And like, but you do that, like, maybe when everything else gets done, or when you get there. You know, but here's the thing I learned that I want to share with you. That real impact doesn't come from running yourself into the ground by any means. It comes when you know when to actually pause and when to recharge and when you need to create space so that you can show up as your best self. And once again, I've learned this so many times myself, and I fall back into it time and time again. And it's something you just have to keep reminding yourself of, because rest isn't anything that slows you down. It's actually what powers you forward, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, creatively. Like, there's all sorts of things about that. Now, in case you're wondering, my name is Jake Talbert. I'm the founder and author of this book. It's called The Giver Method. It is an Amazon bestseller, tons of 5-star reviews. It is the best $10 you could invest in yourself. I'll put a link to it in the description, or you go to Amazon, look up The Giver Method. Best $10 you can invest in yourself. It's going to help you to transform your life in the way that you show up, how you give, how you discover your gifts and superpowers, how you can influence more people, create more value for them. And of course, like, I want to create an impact, and I want to live a life with more fulfillment and joy and happiness. Like, that's what it's all about. So you can go get access to the book. Now, if you're not ready to get the book, I'll put a free resource down there as well called The Giver Roadmap. You can get access to as well. It's going to help you to unpack and start learning some of those pieces as well. Now, in this video, I want you to walk away with these principles and steps that I've helped thousands of people with, that, you know, parents, entrepreneurs, employees, you know, purpose-driven professionals, like, finally break out of that burnout loop and start living in a rhythm that actually works with them, not against them. And it's not going to be any sort of like a fluffy feel-good tip. It's truly practical, actionable steps that are grounded and actually backed by science. And more importantly, like, they're built for people who are just like you, you know, people who are already giving a lot. Parents, entrepreneurs, like, you give so much. You know, but you want to start not just giving because you need to give a lot, but like, let's start giving from a place that's full rather than maybe where you're feeling fried. So stick with me, because by the end of this conversation, you're going to understand why the most effective people who are present and have the most fulfilled and joyful life aren't the people who are grinding the longest. Like, they're the ones who learn how to protect their energy, to recover with more purpose, and to work in within their own design versus like working against it. And if you feel stuck in a cycle of doing more and feeling less, like, you're not alone, but also you're not stuck. Let's break that cycle today. Let's find your new rhythm, and let's talk about how rest can become maybe a new superpower for you. Now, before we dive in, of course, if you are new here, if you find this valuable, if you want to learn more about this stuff, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell for notifications. Don't want you to miss out on any of our content. Like the video along the way. Of course, you can leave your comment, you know, if you have any thoughts about these principles or steps as we go through them. I'll also put down in the description, not just the book and the free resource, but links to our TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and thegivermethod.com. So you can go find us in all of those other places as well. Cool? So let's dive into this. Now, the first principle, like, that really kicks things off for us is something that completely shifted how I approach my day, and honestly, how I think about productivity overall. Most of us grow up believing that more hours equals more results. Like, if I just keep grinding, something good will eventually happen. But the truth is, no one really ever told me this. Like, human performance doesn't run in a straight line. It actually follows a curve. Like, there's a point where you are in your zone, where you're sharp, you're focused, you're dialed in, and then it drops. Like sometimes it builds quickly and then drops quickly, but it's a curve. And it's not because you're lazy, it's not because you lack discipline. That's just because you're human. It's this performance curve reality that we all have to live by. And maybe you felt it where there's moments where you can push past your limits, thinking I'm being productive, but things start to feel maybe a little fuzzy. Or maybe you read the same sentence multiple times, or you find simple mistakes you did, or feeling drained for things that normally wouldn't faze you in any sort of a way, right? We've all been there. It's not a failure. It's actually just in your biology. I used to pride myself in how I could work these long hours and do crazy things and still try to show up as a dad and as a husband. But what it did was it led towards that overwhelm, burnout, brain fog, and a version of myself that barely functioned in the moments where I wanted to show up best. Now, there's science that backs this for you. Our brains literally run out of cognitive fuel the longer that we push. This week had days where I wasn't feeling well. I had days that I, had to get up extra early to work with some clients over, in Europe. And I got, get to home yesterday, and it was quite literally I couldn't function. I couldn't process information. I couldn't think about, I stood kind of staring at my plate going to walk over to the table because I was just so burnt out from everything, just so brain fried, Now, even any top performer out there, anyone who's a top performer in the world, whether they're an athlete, an artist, an executive, they've all worked on focus bursts that they have with real recovery that's built in. And so the where things start to change for you is instead of forcing more output, what you want to do is focus on how do I work within my natural energy rather than against it? So for the next week, just check in with yourself at different points of the day. Use your phone or a sticky note or whatever works best for you, and then rate your energy on a scale of 1 to 10. Don't judge yourself. This is all about awareness. So start to see patterns or times where you're just naturally I feel like I'm sharp and I'm dialed in, or the times where you're man, I just feel like things are dragging. And then take that insight and reorganize your schedule around it. Maybe how do I protect those high energy hours like gold? I love waking up early because there's so much I can get done. And so I like to focus on those things. I'm going to save my emails or errands or meetings when, energy is dipping. So it's kind of off to the side. And the kicker is that you just set boundaries around the downside of the curve. You create rules that keep you from making tough decisions or doing creative work when your brain's already starting to clock out. I don't do any sort of I don't do meetings with people after 3 p.m. I don't, no work emails, no after dinner. I have a certain point in the day where I just cut everything off from work, because if I don't, my brain keeps going and it leads towards anxiety. It leads towards regret and overwhelm and frustration, right? So what the change for me with this is not just how I work, but how I feel. It taught me that rest isn't that weakness. It's actually wisdom that I can put to practice based off of that. So if you're feeling stuck in a cycle where you feel like you're doing, you're feeling less connected, or you feel like you're doing so much more, I'm less inspired, I'm less present, then look at it in this new way and find the ways that we can use the curve to your advantage. Okay? Now, our second one is going to be that there's this idea of the strategic recovery method, and something that most of us are really terrible at, but, that might be something that's holding us back. And that is that idea of just I need rest. Now, before the brain jumps to I don't have time for that, or rest is for later, just hang with me, because I want to reframe it in a way that gives you permission and, to do it. And write yourself a permission slip. Understand it's mission critical to you. We've been taught that rest is a luxury, something that you squeeze in after everything else, optional rewards after work is done. But I've learned that the hard way. It's not a reward. It has to be part of your strategy. Something you have to bake in as a part of that. It's about stopping your default crashing, into the couch and calling it recharging, turning on Netflix, turning on, streaming, doom scrolling your phone. No, that's not recharging. Instead, it's about treating your rest like a high stakes investment that's going to be deliberate and intentional and tailored to what you truly need. And we're going to talk a lot about different things from a physical, emotional, mental ways to recharge. Okay. We're going to talk about those as we go, but these are made as you rebuild. Gains aren't made when you're pushing through hard. It's made how you then recover and then come back the next day and do more, right? So the same is true for your brain, your creativity, your emotional energy, even your motivation. And something that can blow your mind. It threw me off when I first started to learn about it, is that neuroscientists have found that the brain, when it's at rest, specifically during moments of quiet, non-distracted downtime, it doesn't shut off in any way. It actually lights up whole different networks of the brain. It's essentially like your mind is connecting the dots and meanings and generating insights. That's why some of the ideas that come to you in the shower are like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. Or while driving or on a walk where there's no phone in sight. Like, it's not magic. Your brain is just naturally doing that work behind the scenes, but it's because it's given the space to do so. And the problem is that most of us call rest these days that doom scroll, that Netflix, watching, Instagram, whatever. It's like, that's not recovery, that's numbing. Even if the first hour of, even if you feel like you rested for an hour, like sometimes you feel more drained than actually when you sat down, because you're like, oh my gosh, my brain never got that chance to go into that mode. And so you want to start by creating, what's my mental recovery menu? Or sorry, my recovery menu that contains mental, physical, and emotional. Like, how do I focus on like mental? Like, it's maybe reading something, reading a book. It might be a meditation. It might be sitting on the porch with a cup of tea, or just no screens or no stimulus. Like, physical recovery, yeah, sleep is part of it, but stretching, walking, nothing fancy, just intentional movement or maybe intentional stillness. And then the emotional recovery is like connecting with someone who actually sees you. Journaling about something, laughing with your kids, making music, painting, prayer, like whatever gives you that exhale of feeling that you need. Like, once you know what fits into your tank, like, schedule it. Once again, it doesn't have to be crazy. Just find those blocks of time. But if you don't put time on your calendar or reminders to do it, you're going to forget to do it. So maybe it's like taking 10 to 30 minutes between those slices of chaos, and you rest, after a tough meeting, or a short walk between calls, a nap. Gosh, yeah, maybe you just need to take a nap. And for those of you thinking, like, I don't have time for this, like, just ask yourself, like, what's the cost of running on the fumes? Because let me tell you from my own experience, like, burnout doesn't send, like, a calendar invite to you in any sort of way. Like, the small but powerful change that you can make in just looking at these ways to recharge in those moments, like, it helps you with this, it helps create a rhythm for you that just sticks. And so sometimes you even need like transition rituals. Like, your brain needs time to shut down what you're thinking on or working on and to turn on like the new thing you're going to be doing. And so you need these rituals that you could do that are helping you to reset in those moments. How do I tell my brain that we're shifting gears to something different? That walk, that, a little bit of music, that talking with someone. What are those things I can do? Like, you don't need to treat rest like a guilty pleasure. Like, we're not wasting our time. We're not waiting until like I'm completely exhausted to like focus on this. Like, build that recovery rhythm into your day, because it's going to fuel you, that allows you to be more generous, more authentic, and to show up as the person you're truly meant to be. Now, the next thing is to think about principle number 3 is there's this like 90-minute block rule. Like, your brain is actually wired in a way, like in our biology, scientists call this, there's a, oh gosh, I can't think of the term. It's like it's ultradian rhythm or something like that. Forget about it. Like, don't let the term scare you or push you away. But there's a rhythm that, simply your brain can be in the zone for a certain stretch of time, and then it needs rest and reset. Like, it just needs a part of that. It's not a failure. It's just part of your design. So instead of pushing through, like, what they found is that if you do things in 60 to 90 minute blocks, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to intentionally do something to do that mental reset. I'm going to go for that walk. I'm going to do that thing. I'm going to go get a drink of water. I'm going to do something to do a mental reset. I need to step away. And the goal would be if you could do it for 15 to 30 minutes. But even just to start and getting your brain to transition, what are those just brief things that you can do? Yeah, you don't need to squeeze more hours into your day. It's just about protecting your best time so you can show up as best possible in those moments. Writers, athletes, musicians, scientists, like, they've all found rhythms even without calling it by any sort of a name. And you've probably had those moments that, without even realizing it, like those times where you just lose track of the work you're doing, or you hit your stride, or you look at the time and you're like, oh my gosh, where did all the time go? Like, so we need to just build this into our real life. Start by identifying what really matters, the stuff that moves the needle, whether it's, planning your next move, writing, designing, leading, parenting with presence, building something new, anything, like, and then build in the blocks that are going to protect that focus time. And then look at your day and say, okay, well, if I'm going to do these 60 to 90 minute blocks, what would it look like? And ideally, those are going to be what we talked about, those higher energy times based on your energy curve. Like, what are my higher energy times that I can do those? Before my inbox starts to hijack my brain, before kids with school and, trying to get kids down for bed or dinner or anything, like what matters. Find the times that matter, shut the door, turn off notifications, and like maybe put a phone in the other room and just start a ritual that signals your mind that, hey, time to shift our focus and get into this moment where we're going to be in that 90-minute window. Now, next one is go back to that second thing of the recovery menu, reset yourself as you need to, and then move on to the next block. Now, the bigger point is that you don't need like consistently effective. Like, you don't have to be like, oh my gosh, I have to do this the exact way every single time. It's like, no, just consistency of doing it. Like, just honor creating a rhythm of what that would be for you. And it's about giving your best energy to what matters most and still having enough left in the tank to show up for the people that you care about the most, right? Now, the fourth one is, we talked about it, sleep. Oh my gosh, this crazy concept of like making a sleep commitment to the quality that you want to have. You know, it's something that we do that's self-sabotaging in so many ways. So many well-meaning people, so many high-impact people, like they struggle with this concept. You're trying to do your best work, and with your brain is running on that low battery. We live in a culture where they talk about this hustle and the late nights and pushing through exhaustion. You know, like I said, for me, it was a badge of honor almost. Like, here's the truth most people ignore, is that sleep is not an enemy of productivity, it's the foundation. And so you need to create a commitment in your mind that says, hey, I know what I'm going to be doing with sleep and the time I need. It's a mindset shift. You know, while you sleep, your brain isn't at break. It's behind the scenes, you know, making everything else in your life possible. It's basically taking and filing away the memories, stitching together ideas. It's clearing out any sort of mental clutter that piles up during the day. And it's like an overnight housekeeper has just come in with your mind. Like, so without good sleep, the lights may be on, but no one's really home. And the kicker is that, like, when you are sleep deprived, you often don't even realize how off of your game you are. Like I said, this week, I between not feeling well and waking up early for some clients, like I was driving with my wife and she goes, "You're tired driving." I didn't feel it in the moment until she said something. Like, she's like, "You're off your game. Like, your reaction time is slower. Your emotion can get hotter. Decision making takes a hit." Like, and yet we all convince ourselves that like we're functioning just fine. And, you know, well, gosh, that's like jumping into a car that has completely bald tires and thinking that you're in control. You're not. It doesn't take much to make that go out of control. And so you need to shift, and the idea is, how do I shift out of this survival mode into like a restoration mode? And so it starts by like treating sleep like it is actually a non-negotiable. I know what my times are, I know what time I need to wake up, and I'm going to allot the right amount of time to go to sleep. But not only that, I'm going to have a runway that builds up to rest where I don't do certain things. Like I said, I won't look at emails or anything work-related after dinner. Usually it's even after 3, but after dinner, because I need that time for my brain to shut down from what the daily thing has been. And so as I set my target bedtime, I'm going to say, well, I'm not going to be looking at a screen, I'm not going to be reading emails, I'm not going to be like, how do I actually find the times to wind down? Maybe it's reading a book, maybe it's, you know, journaling, maybe it's sketching or praying or talking with someone. You know, my wife and I talk a ton during that time as we build up to going to sleep, and it helps to just clear your head. Like, the key is you're choosing this calm over a stimulation that could be there, and your brain needs to know that it's safe to like just let go and do its thing. And actual, like, creating the actual sleep space that you're in, like understanding how much that impacts you is also going to be as important, because when we look at that, like, is it cluttery? Is it a mess? Is there screens on? Is there, you know, gosh, we've all had kids in our room. We've all traveled where we're out of our zone, but how consistent can I make it that the space I'm in is quiet, clean, and productive to me being able to get the sleep that I need? You know, maybe you need an eye mask. Like, sleep is not a time that you lose in your day. It's the fuel that you need, that you actually earn what you can do the next day by doing that. So the quality of sleep, like, it isn't about being rigid or adding pressure to your night. Like, it's just about giving your brain the restoration it actually is going to need to continue on in the next part of the day, right? So protect your sleep like it is like you protect your values or your purpose and who you are and how you show up. Now, our fifth one is going to be that we're talking more about like that mental renewal, right? Because we've all had that different kind of exhaustion, you know, not the kind where your body feels tired, but like your brain just feels done, like spent. There's no more clarity. There's no more spark. You remember, like, you can't remember the simple things in your life. Like, you know, even small decisions feel like they're really heavy. You look at your laptop, you're like, I don't even know what I was doing here. Like, this is a mental fatigue that you're having. And you can't solve it by pushing through it. You have to actually pause with purpose. And so that's where this mental renewal practice you need to start doing will come into play. So it's not about checking out in any way. It's not about zoning out or Netflixing or scrolling, mindlessly through things. Like, mental renewal is a specific kind of reset that gives your thinking mind space to breathe, to process, to restore what it needs to do, and create those moments, like, gosh, in your day where my brain doesn't have to solve anything or react to anything or decode or program or produce. Like, it's just simply being there. Think of it like a whiteboard. Every decision, problem, discussion, notification, like, adds these layers of scribbles to the board. And if you never wipe it clean, you're just writing over old clutter again and again. That mental renewal that you need is how you clear the board so that the important stuff can stand out. And so the easiest way of doing this is to, like, start by building in some sort of moments of stillness in your day. I mean, gosh, we're talking a minute, 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes at most, where you simply close your eyes and just notice how you're breathing, or take a moment to tune your senses to, like, what am I actually hearing? What do I feel? What do I smell? Like, what do I need? Is there anything needing to do? Like, I don't need to do anything in this moment. I just need to be here in this moment. No apps, no goals, no performance, just presence, okay? Sometimes these mini pauses, like, I look at them as like they're anchors. They're anchors in my day, like between the meetings or before a call, in the car before I walk in my house. Like, they just need that minute to return myself. And it's like, gosh, I need to hit that reset button before I move on to the next thing. Now, you could really add a layer to that when you think of, like, mental white space that you can create, where you block even bigger chunks of time, or you're intentionally doing nothing. Not trying to solve anything, not trying to consume content, not trying to do anything. Like, so that might be some bigger. I'm going to go sit on the porch. I'm going to go for a slow walk without any sort of earbuds or music. I'm just going to sit here and stare at the window and let my mind drift. Like, it's not drifting. It's not laziness. It's your brain getting the chance to connect the dots in the background. And it will shed so much more insight for you. Now, there's so much input we have out there: podcasts, emails, notifications, scrolls, alerts. Like, even helpful stuff can become noise, and your mind needs that time to digest and start experimenting with input, experimenting with what you already know. So you create these input boundaries and create that space between the streaming or incoming content that you may have out there. No phone, so hey, say the first hour of the day, I'm not going to touch my phone. I'm going to have that evening cutoff, like I do with a lot of things. At lunch, I'm going to do, like, I'm not going to allow myself to have screens at lunch. I'm only going to let, look at my screen once during lunch, or things along those lines. Like, it's not about any sort of restriction. It's just about focusing on that restoration piece as a part of that. And if you're a parent, entrepreneur, someone who wears a lot of hats every single day, like, your clarity is not a luxury, it's a responsibility that you have. The decisions, the most impactful ideas, the most meaningful connections all come from a clear mind, a mind that has space to breathe. So don't wait until overwhelmed to reset. Like, just build those moments of mental renewal into a rhythm day to day. How do I do that? With like I would do food or movement, or like, I need to include all these things in my life, because, like, not because I'm fragile or gonna break in any way, but, like, your mind just is your most valuable asset, and you need to rebuild it back up where possible. Now, our sixth one we talked about, like, so that was the mental. Now we're gonna talk about the emotional side, because part of exhaustion that people don't really hit on that much, like, it's not that physical, it's not the brain fog, but it's like your heart feels tired, right? I mean, we've all been there. You're going through motion, you're doing all night, like, you're doing all the right things you need to be doing, but deep down you just feel maybe flat or disconnected. Like, you've run out of something, or you're not even sure what it is anymore. Like, that something it's an emotional energy, and when it runs dry, everything else, your creativity or presence or patience, starts to fade too. So what's that emotional restoration system that you can put into play? Where we think about rest in terms of sleep or screen breaks or meditation, like, what about emotional depletion? Like, it runs a lot deeper than you actually think. It shows up when, you've been strong for too long for other people. You poured everything out for everyone else. Like, you didn't leave anything in your own tank. And the catch is, like, emotional burnout isn't loud. It is quiet. It is numbness. It feels even like the things that you care about don't move the way that they used to. And so if you felt that, like, it's a reminder, like, it doesn't mean you're broken in any way. It just means that you need to restore what's quality to you. So first thing is, like, gosh, connection that actually connects. Like, start emotional, like, the way you can show up and then start connecting with people is going to start to rebuild that. So not small talk, not obligation, not pretending. Like, go find the real moments with people where you can just be fully you, unfiltered, unedited, and just safe. And you create those connection anchors with these people. Even short-term check-ins with someone who really understands you or gets you, like, can do so much for your emotional well-being than maybe a weekend of, just social level like surface level socializing with people. So it could be a weekly call with a close friend. This could be a event session with your partner. It could be a small group where you don't have to perform, or even, a walk with someone who's really good at listening more than that they talk. And then if you don't have these people yet, like, gosh, maybe we need to start one. Maybe we need to find those people or be that person to others, and then set boundaries that protect that emotional energy like it matters, because it really, really does. You can say no to conversations that drain you. You can skip, the group text that's full of drama. You can choose to not engage in every emotionally charged topic on social media. Like, protect your peace. Like, you're not avoiding things. You're just basically, it's stewardship that you're taking at that point. And then, make space for those daily emotional resets. Like, doesn't mean to have to be elaborate. It could just be 5 minutes at the end of the day where you check in with yourself. You journal a few honest sentences. You just sit in silence and you name what you're feeling in that moment. The goal isn't to fix anything. It's to let your feelings just have that place, that they don't have to follow you around unprocessed and be heavy. Like, for people, that reset happens during evening walks, or some people might be quiet after the kids are finally asleep. Like, the drive home in your car could be a sanctuary to you. Like, whatever fits, just let it be consistent and let it be honest in who you are, because you'll start feeling again. You'll start creating again. You'll start laughing again. The spark that's inside you returns, and suddenly life doesn't feel so heavy. Which brings us to our 7th step or principle, which is all about that strategic unplugging and creating a protocol around that. Because, I mean, let's be honest, our phones, they are never more than a few feet away. They're with us when we wake up, when we eat, when we're working, even when we're trying to quote unquote rest. Yet, so many of us feel more scattered, more overstimulated, and less here than ever. And that's no coincidence. Like, that's that cost of constant connection. And it's one most of us are paying without even realizing it. So that's why having this strategic, like, I'm going to have this unplugged protocol that I'm going to start to install in my life. Now, I'm not here to tell you to throw your phone away, to throw it in a lake, or to delete every app. Like, that's not the point. Technology is an absolutely incredible gift. And I work with people in technology all the time. But when you never step away from it, it starts to chip away at something super important. And that's your attention and your clarity and the peace that you have. And most people don't realize that even when you're not using your phone, it's still with you and it's still using you. It's pulling your attention. It's still asking your brain to stay alert just in case something buzzes. Like, what happens in the next 24/7? Like, what could happen over the next period of time? Like, you don't just get distracted, you get drained. So how do we take our minds and our presence back from the distractions? So you start to carve out those sacred spaces where your devices don't go. It could be the dinner table. It could be the first hour of your morning. It could be when you're in the bedroom. It could be wherever it may, wherever you can create the space for your mind and relationships, that you don't have to compete with that glowing rectangle that you have. Like, these small pockets of disconnection, they're going to create room for real connection, with your family, with your thoughts, with internal wisdom. And then, like, think of what's the digital, like, on top of that, you could add like a cutoff, like a digital sunset type of a thing. Like, so that's just like the sun goes down. It doesn't disappear all at once. That would be kind of weird. So we don't need to just stop scrolling Instagram all of a sudden. Let's ease out of our screen time. Maybe switching from work emails to music or reading. Maybe the shift begins because we're going to start journaling and stretching and simply being still before bed. Batch that digital time into containers as much as you can. Like, instead of answering texts, or emails, or being on those things all the time, like, just set windows. Like, hey, mid-morning, that's when I do those sort of things. After lunch, right before I wrap up for the day. Like, it's not about being less responsive, it's about being present. And people understand that. They get it. I've worked with so many businesses that have to adopt this policy, and they're so afraid that people are going to feel like they're not being responded to or being disconnected. It's like, no, that's not the case at all. I'm just being more open and honest with my time. I'm creating barriers around the things that are going to keep things from depleting me as we move forward, right? So we've covered a lot today: how to align your natural energy, how to build in this real recovery, and how to protect your focus and peace in a world that's never going to stop asking you for more. But what really matters is that none of this works unless it becomes real in your life. Not a thing you chase, but something that you just live. Because rest, like, it isn't something that you just tack on after all the work is done. It's the reason you're able to go do the work that truly matters. It's not about stepping back, but it's about, showing up better, clearer, stronger, more you and authentically you. Like, it's not about perfection anyway. You're basically giving yourself a permission slip. Permission to stop measuring your worth by how much you produce, and permission to stop pushing through when you need to take a second and pause, and permission to choose a rhythm that's built to last and build you up over time. And maybe the most important shift of all is to stop seeing rest as something separate from your purpose. Like, start seeing it as a part of your purpose, because the vision of you that is rested, like the version of you that is rested, present, it's going to be more fully and tuned in. Like, that's the version that's going to create the real impact. So pick one of these things we talked about earlier. Whatever it is, just don't wait till everything's perfect to try it. Try one of them now. Try it messy, try it tired. It's okay. Just see what shifts when you choose to recover on purpose and intentionally, right? Now, if this conversation hit home for you, then I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and go grab a copy of my book. Once again, it's in the description, The Giver Method. Go get it on Amazon. I'll put the link in there. It's packed with all sorts of life tools and stories to help you live these principles in the way that you want. Also, the Giver Roadmap. I'll put the free link down there for you to get access to that. I would love to hear from you. Like, what stood out of these things? What shifted for you? What perspective did it maybe give you? Like, remember, this is one of the most important things you could be doing. So thanks for being here, and know that, like, your greatest contribution doesn't come from running yourself to the ground. It comes when you bring your best you, to the people and the places that matter most. It's not stepping back, it's stepping into the kind of impact that only happens when you lead with your wholeness, right? So take the rest you need, create the space, you crave for that, and keep becoming someone who doesn't burn out, who actually burns bright, who burns steady. You're closer than you think, I promise you that. And the more you start to realize that, the further along you're going to start to produce and progress faster. And with that, I'll just say, until next time, keep growing, keep developing your gifts and superpowers. Rest well and rise further, because the best you is waiting on the other side of that renewal. And with that, I'll say have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you in our next video, whenever that is. Have a good one.